Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is Jheqia Wednesday, part of the Mistletoe Chronicles and the holiday magic season. So it's written by Jheqia, narrated by Dawn, myself, hello. And this one is called Roses and Chocolate. And so massive shout out to Jheqia's and all her information and other stories are linked in the description below. Massive shout out to River for the use of her gorgeous artwork in the thumbnail. All her information is down below. Send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you think of it, as this is the final part in the 4-part series, and subscribe if you haven't already, because there's other goodies to come and you don't want to miss out. Okay, so I hope you enjoy. Roses and Chocolate. Marinette was up to her elbow in cookie dough. Cookies were a special thing she did to fill the stockings of her friends and family every Christmas, along with making gifts. But this was a special Christmas, since it would be the first that Adrien would spend with her openly. Sure, he had come the last 2 years as Cat Noir, but after that ridiculous reveal last Christmas where Adrien had flirted with her at the class holiday party and figured him out, he had come over every chance he could, and her parents were ecstatic when he had proposed that next September. Of course, they didn't know that that was our 5th anniversary of the day we met at school and as the heroes of Paris, she mused. Humming under her breath, she started shaping the next batch of cookies in the kitchen of her parents' bakery, since her mother had forbidden her to bake in the apartment, as she needed to prepare the dinner for that night for their guests.
Marinette, can I have just one of those caramels?
Tiki begged.
Please?
No, Tiki, she giggled. I just made enough for the cookies. Besides, I made an extra half batch for you and the other Kwamis to share. What happened to them?
Oh, they're long gone,
Her little friends replied sadly.
With dozens of us, treats don't last very long.
Well, you'll be able to have some of the cookies I'm baking with them later then.
Fresh out of the oven?
Yes, fresh out of the oven. Tiki beamed at her and took off to do a loop-de-loop around the kitchen. Marinette smiled at her friend's antics and kept wrapping the squares of caramel inside the cookie dough. She was putting the first 2 racks into the oven when she heard the door to the apartment open. A pair of strong arms wrapped around her gently from behind, with a soft kiss that was placed on the back of her neck, making her giggle. "I missed you, princess," a beloved voice whispered, brushing the back of her neck with his nose. "Adrien, stop it," she laughed. "That tickles, and I'll get chocolate and stuff on your coat." He chuckled and briskly rubbed his nose against her neck to make her giggle some more. She scrunched up her shoulders and tried to nudge him in the ribs with her elbow to ward him off, but he just held tighter. "I told you, Marinette, I missed you. And your giggles just fill me up inside. My princess tank has been running dreadfully low." She wriggled free and turned to glare at him with what he referred to her as a ladybug look, hands on hips. "And that's my fault? Besides, we have talked every day this week. It's not like I've abandoned you, silly kitty." "I know, stupid schedule," he grumbled, taking off the knitted hat she had made to match the blue scarf from so long ago. That had been an interesting conversation, one of many that had helped clear things up between them over the last year. "But if I don't keep father happy, he might decide to boycott the wedding, and I'm not letting that happen, no matter what." "I know, my prince," she said, softening in an instant and wrapping her arms around his waist, but keeping her sticky hands away from his coat. "We could still elope if you want to." He chuckled again, relaxing against her and resting his forehead against hers. "Your parents would never forgive us, and Alia would kill me." "Are you kidding? Alia would probably drive the getaway car, especially after what your father tried to pull this summer." He placed a kiss on her forehead and sighed. Yeah, I still can't believe he tried to bribe you to break up with me. I just think he figured I was a gold digger after his perfect son. Her love snorted derisively. If he ever bothered to look up from his screen, he would realize I'm hardly perfect. Look how long it took me to figure out that you were in love with me. No wonder Nino kept making jokes about needing glasses. Yeah, but when I told him that your love was worth more to me than money, he tore up the check. You know, you never told me how much he offered you that day. She kissed him softly. You are worth far more to me than anything else in the world. She shrugged. €1,000,000 doesn't go as far as it used to. Now, let me check these cookies. I need to turn them. She stepped away to open the oven door, leaving him with a dumbstruck look on his face. When you manage to pull yourself together, Adrien, I could use some help to finish these cookies. By the time she had rotated the cookie tray back to front and up to down, he had taken off his coat and gloves and put on a clean apron she had made for him, emerald green with a heart and a letter A embroidered on the pocket in black. He was washing up at the sink when she finished, but she could see his neck and ears were still flushed over the new revelation of the old news. She walked up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist, now not worried about getting his clothes messy. You have always been more than an asset, Kitty. No amount of money could buy what you have made yourself to be through your own hard work and character. You are not your father, not a brand, not the media. You. And in 4 months I will happily take you for richer or poorer and spend the rest of our lives proving how wonderful you are and how much I love you. She hugged him tight and rubbed her cheek against the back of his sweater. His wet hands grabbed her sticky ones. I still can't help but wonder if I'm getting the for better while you're getting the for worse, he said, his voice hoarse. You are giving me so much, Marinette. Love, a family, a true home. All I'm bringing is baggage. She let him go and forced him round to face her, now heedless of the chocolate cookie dough drying on her hands and its potential impact on his cream-coloured sweater. Silly cat! We all have it, and you are so much more than that sum of your past. So what if I end up with a crummy father-in-law who tries to run our lives? I won't let him, and no one can move me once I've made up my mind, and I will always have you to back me up. If we can take on Shadow Moth and his Akumas, we can deal with your father. He wrapped her in another tight hug, and Marinette held him for a long while. She hated his father, brought out this most timid streak in her Kitty, who was the strongest and bravest person she knew, with or without the mask. For probably the 1000th time, she wished Ladybug could pay Gable Agreste a visit and knock some sense into this coffeeed head. As against the world, right? She whispered into his chest. As against the world, my lady, he breathed. I'm so glad to have you, Marinette. You do me so much good. And your father thought so too, she said, pulling out the hug with a smirk, after I hollered at him a bit, though I believe the term he used was pluck. He chuckled. That's my lady. Adrien gazed at her with such love and longing that she felt the warmth rush from her heart to pool in the pit of her stomach. He had always been handsome and became more so as an adult, but the look in his emerald eyes was enough to make her weak in the knees. She flushed at her response and he grinned, loving that he still had that effect on her even after all this time. So, cookies? Yeah, she breathed, struggling to pull herself back together. Right. You scoop out a round of dough, make a pinch pot with your fingers like this, then drop a square of caramel into the hole and wrap the dough around it. See? Then you put it smooth side up on the baking sheet. Think you got it? 'Cause I need to pull the other cookies out. Only if I get one of the first ones, he said, grinning cheekily. She giggled. You're just as bad as Tiki. At least I'm not as bad as Plague, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. There would be caramel smell everywhere I went, and you wouldn't stand to be around me. I love you anyway, and it wouldn't be the first time I wore a mask. Now it was her turn to grin cheekily. But a rebreather would make it very hard to give kisses. That's it. As of now, that floating stomach is getting cheddar. I'm not giving up princess kisses now that I've got them all to myself. Ha ha! I'd like to see you try, Plague called from the top of the cupboard where he'd been holed up with Tiki. There's some of that cheese bread you like on the counter, Plague, she said without turning round. Not anymore. The gravelly words were followed by a burp, far too loud to come out such a small body. Plague! Plague! Tiki and Adrien both yelled at the same time. See? Marinette said, using the spatula to transfer the hot cookies to a cooling rack. We're one big family already. Tiki, cookies are done. Do you want to wait until they've cooled a bit? Nope. A red blur swooped down and a cookie was swept into the cupboard. May I have one too, princess? Adrien begged, giving her what she had called his miraculous Puss in Boots eyes, coupled with a little pout. Only if you want a burnt tongue, she chided, swatting playfully at the hand that tried to sneak a treat from under her nose. The caramel inside is molten for quite a while after it cools. Besides, I still need to sprinkle the sea salt on. Oh, salted chocolate caramel cookies fresh from the oven, and you won't let me have one? We'll have to see about that. Sticky hands grabbed her around the middle, and he rubbed his nose against the back of her neck again. Adrien, please, she gasped through her giggles. I'm serious. The cookies need to cool first. Fine. Then you owe me another sweet treat. Suit yourself. She spun on her toes in the circle of his arms and grabbed his face and pulled him into a kiss. It stunned him for only a heartbeat. Then she felt his eyes close and he pulled her close against him. Oh, surely she would never get used to this. A wave of warmth crashed against her ribcage and sent tingles vibrating through her. Kissing Adrien had always been addictive, but now the scent of chocolate on her skin mixed with the spices of his aftershave was intoxicating. The security and love she felt in his arms was a drug in itself, and she fought the urge to melt into his arms. Someday soon she would be his wife, and he would be her husband. Nothing could separate them, and they could live in moments like this forever. But for now, Marinette pulled away and smiled up at him, feeling giddy over the dazed kitten expression on his face and how he swayed to lean back against the butcher block counter behind him. Sweet enough for you? Hot stuff? Wow, he murmured. I didn't know sweet and spicy work so well together, princess. She chuckled. Remind me to make you a chili hot chocolate later. How about we just go for seconds right now? He purred, leaning in to kiss her again, but she pushed him back by his nose. Nope, too much to do. But, she bumped him gently with her hip, another kiss later would be nice. Marinette turned to scoop the cool cookies into the little gift bags, a bright flush mantling across her cheeks that had nothing to do with the nearby ovens. She grinned fondly when she heard him muttering, Just 3 months and 23 days. Just 3 months and 23 days. The cookies finished and packed, Marinette and Adrien went upstairs to help finish setting up for the Christmas Eve dinner. Ali and Nina were coming over too, and they were going to exchange presents as an extended family. Since Adrien's father was travelling for business, he had grudgingly given permission for Adrien to stay with the Jupang Changs over the holiday as long as things were properly supervised. Of course, I conveniently forgot to mention that Nina would be coming, Adrien told Marinette happily as he stashed his duffel bag out of the way in the linen closet. Father wouldn't know a bad influence if it jumped up and bit him on the nose. Marinette nearly choked on a cookie from laughing so hard, and he pounded her on the back until she could get her coughing and giggles under control. I just imagine Plag diving at your father's face, she whispered, breathless with laughter. Adrien laughed too. Oh, believe me, the thought had crossed his mind more than once. Hey, Mom, need any help? I think your papa and I have got things handled for now, dear, Sabrine replied, accepting her daughter's kiss on the cheek with a smile. If you and Adrien could set up the folding table and lay out the play settings for me, that would be great. Then you should have enough time to hang the stockings and things before our guests arrive. Sure thing, Mama Shang. The red plates or the white? He said, planting a kiss on her cheek as well. She smiled up at him serenely. Red, please. I'm so glad you're part of our family now, Adrien. Her voice was so soft with love and motherly concern that it brought a tear to his eyes. He bent low to give her a gentle hug. Thank you, little mother, he whispered in Mandarin. Thank you, son of my heart, she replied in the same, patting him fondly on the cheek. I thought love languages were supposed to be actions or words between lovers, not Mandarin. Marinette giggled, the smile on her face showing she was pleased with how much he adored her family. And he really did. Tom and Sabrine had welcomed him with open arms and hearts, and he had responded as joyfully as if he had been adopted. In a way, he had been. He and Tom would toss puns back and forth over family dinners, and he was teaching Adrien how to make the croissants he liked so much. Sabrine loved how he would speak to her in the language of her childhood, how kind and thoughtful he was, how much he clearly adored Marinette. They were more his family than his father had been to him ever since his mother had disappeared. Maybe even before that too, he thought wistfully. No matter what had come before, Tom's hugs that could embrace the world, Sabrine's motherly care and home-cooked meals, and Marinette's strength, laughter and love filled his heart in a way that he wasn't sure he could ever truly defy. All he knew was that this was the family he was supposed to be with, and he would give his all to build a home like this for himself and Marinette, and one day, their children. He blushed as he and Marinette set the table, her eyes flickering to his every so often when their hands brushed. His heart sang. Adrien, could you pop upstairs to my closet and get the box marked Christmas? Marinette asked him. Sure thing, love, he said, kissing her on the temple on the way by. He climbed the stairs to her attic, relishing the cozy feeling of his lady love that filled every inch of her room. He smiled as he remembered when she had given him her lucky charm when they practiced for the video game competition, how much comfort it had given him over the years, even though he hadn't known Marinette had loved him. He pulled it out of his pocket and ran it through his fingers, admiring the special charm she had given him on their Christmas date several years ago. That was the real turning point for us, wasn't it? He thought, running his thumb over the green stones that matched his eyes. That was when I knew she saw me as myself and understood what I'd been going through. And that was when I realized I hadn't been loving her the same way, even if hers was platonic back then, at least towards Cat. Hey, kid, if you're done on your trip down memory lane, you gonna get that box or what? Plag asked. Since he and Marinette had learned their identities, Plag had softened towards him. Well, as much as Plag could soften anyway. His teasing was gentler and his tone generally less sarcastic than it used to be. Not that he said so, but Adrien could tell he was glad that he and Marinette were happy together. "Yeah, sure, Plag." Tucking the charm back into his pocket, he opened the closet door. There were several boxes, all with markings. It took some shifting, but he finally located the Christmas box. It was at the back of the closet, under a box that was marked with a drawing of a cat's face done in a black marker. Marinette never had a cat, he thought, the thrill of discovery coursing through him. He knew that the only secrets she kept from him now were what his presents were, and in less than 4 months he would be helping her move these boxes to their new townhouse anyway, so he felt no qualms about looking inside. He pulled both boxes out of the closet and took them to the desk. He opened the flaps and saw 4 dried roses in a plastic box. Red, pink, yellow and white. Red for the special rooftop surprise he had planned for Ladybug and had taken Marinette instead. Pink for the time she had confessed she loved him to protect her identity, and he had turned her down because he loved Ladybug, leaving her dad to get acclimatized. Yellow for the time in the Eiffel Tower when they had defeated Mr. Pigeon yet again, and he gave it to her in friendship. And the white he had given to her the night she had revealed her true self to him. She had kept them all, even before she knew she loved him, before he had learned that he loved Marinette. Beside the roses, the boxes held another trinket of their love story. There was the little black cat toy. She had given him the remote so that he could contact her when they were going to New York. A few love letters he had written her when he had to travel for photo shoots, and the Valentine poem he had tried to write for Ladybug and had thrown away at school. The photo of the two of them back in 10th grade where he had his arm around her and she was flashing a peace sign. The silver bell on a black ribbon he had given her for Christmas last year that had led him to accidentally revealing himself. All of these little moments of the story of their love condensed into a single space and haunted by the scent of roses. "Adrien, what's wrong?" He hadn't heard her coming up the stairs. He looked at her, unaware until that instant of the tears that had been rolling down his face. He couldn't speak. His heart was too full for that. Marinette looked from his face to the box and smiled. She was his other half in every sense of the word, and she knew it. She stepped over and wrapped her arms around him. His world became her arms, her warmth, and the lingering scent of chocolate and roses. "I love you so much, Marinette." He forced past the lump in his throat. "More than anything." "I love you too, Adrien. Forever and always." Her hands crept up into his hair and pulled him down for a kiss. She was his everything. Strength and weakness, bold and beautiful, sweet and spice, fire and electricity, as comforting as a warm cookie. Even after all these years and revelations, he still didn't feel like he was worthy of her, especially once he had learned that Ladybug was merely a shadow compared to who Marinette was every day. She pulled away slowly, her eyes full of love and longing that matched his own. "Just 3 months and 23 days, she murmured with the sweetest of smiles. "Yeah," he said, curling a strand of her raven hair around her finger. 3 months and 23 days. Then you'll be mine, Marinette, my lady love." She chuckled softly. "I was yours the day you gave me your umbrella, silly." "You know what I mean," he grinned. "But I loved you first. I've been yours since you crashed into me that first day." She giggled, and it made his heart sparkle. We could never do things the easy way, could we? The only thing I would change is knowing sooner, so I could have been there for you better when you needed it. You can't imagine how I felt on the Christmas day when you told me you were keeping me at arm's length because you needed me to be safe. He sighed and pressed his forehead to hers. And when you kissed my cheek that night, I felt like you were saying goodbye forever. She ran her fingers along his jaw to rest her hands on his chest. In a way, I was. For all that I loved you, Adrien, I knew a relationship wasn't going to work at that point. There were too many secrets I had to keep, and I was not going to put you at risk. She hugged him, and he tucked her head under his chin. And then Cat changed. You changed. And I knew that we could work because you could understand the disappearing and there were fewer questions to answer or secrets to keep. Did I ever tell you how wonderful it was to know you chose me? Both of me? You whispered. She chuckled. Yes, all the time. They stood up in the warm glow of their love for a short eternity, before the soft voice of her mother echoed up the stairs and through the open trapdoor. Come on, you two. Your friends are going to be here any minute. Coming, Mom, they both called, then looked at each other and grinned. Marinette grabbed the Christmas box and threw a wink before heading back downstairs. Adrien stood, looking down onto the box of the precious memories, and smiled. Folding the flaps back over the opening, he tucked it safely away in the back of the closet. He knew exactly what to make for his Marinette as a wedding gift. He would make a display shelf for these memories, these physical mile markers of their long journey on their path to each other. Tom would be sure to help, he knew, and then these chapters of their love story would be displayed for all of their friends and loved ones to be seen and shared. Yes, he thought as he headed down the stairs, in just 3 months and 23 days. Thank you for listening, Roses and Chocolates. I hope you enjoyed it. That was the last part of the 4-part series. Make sure you smash the like button, send some love over to Jheqia, and comment down below what you thought of it and what you thought of the whole series, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future little treats and stories to come and everything else. And I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a good one wherever you may be. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.